They found him sitting in his favorite chair by the window. The TV was still on, muted, casting a soft flicker of light across the room. A half-finished cup of coffee sat beside him, steam long gone. His slippers were still on, his robe open, one hand resting loosely on his knee. At first nothing seemed wrong until you noticed the stillness. A stillness that doesn't belong to rest, but to absence. Bill was 72. Just a few months earlier, he was still mowing his own lawn, meeting his friends at the diner every Friday, and teasing his grandkids about eating too much candy. He wasn't sick, he wasn't frail, but over the past year, something had quietly drained out of him. His energy, his spark, his voice. At first, people chalked it up to just getting older. He stopped taking his morning walks, he stopped going fishing, he stopped, well, everything. And when his family asked, he would shrug and say, "I'm fine." But behind that word, fine, was a truth even he didn't understand. The autopsy would list natural causes. But those of us who know the signs could see it. His body had been slowly shutting down, not because of a disease, but because of neglect of a part of himself he had been taught to ignore. It's the kind of decline no one talks about. No headlines, no awareness month, no neighbor coming over to warn you. And yet, thousands of men over 60 go through it every single year. Their bodies weaken, their hormones crash, their confidence fades, all because of one small decision that sets off a chain reaction inside the body. This isn't about vanity. It isn't about chasing youth. It's about holding on to the strength, the vitality, and the independence that make life worth living. And the truth is, if you're a man over 60, the clock is already ticking. Let's be honest. Most men my age, and maybe you too, were raised in a world where certain topics simply weren't spoken about, especially anything to do with our own bodies, intimacy or pleasure. We were told it was private, shameful, or just not something real men talk about. And so when the years pass and our bodies change, we keep silent. We assume slowing down is inevitable. We tell ourselves it's just age and try to live with it. But what if that silence is the very thing that's costing us our health? I've spent decades talking with men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s. Farmers, veterans, teachers, engineers, men from every background. And again, I've seen the same pattern. A decline that starts small, almost invisible, and accelerates because no one told them what was really happening inside. The truth is, there's a simple biological process that keeps a man's strength, hormones, and vitality in check, and when you abandon it completely, your body begins to deteriorate. This isn't about lust or indulgence. It's about your circulatory system, your hormone balance, your prostate health, your mental stability. For too long, we've treated this as an embarrassing side note instead of what it really is, a vital part of a man's health. And the longer we avoid the conversation, the more men we quietly lose, not just from life, but from themselves. Somewhere along the way, many men start believing intimacy is for the young. We tell ourselves we're past that stage, that we've outgrown those needs. But here's the truth. Your body never stops benefiting from it. Not at 40, not at 60, not even at 80. Sexual activity, whether with a partner or alone, isn't just about pleasure. It's a form of maintenance for the male body, like keeping the engine running so it doesn't seize up. Regular stimulation helps maintain blood flow, keeps nerve pathways active, supports hormone production, and even plays a role in mental health. Think of it like walking. If you stopped using your legs entirely for a year, your muscles would weaken, your joints would stiffen, and your ability to move would fade. The same principle applies to your sexual function. Without regular use, the systems that support it, vascular, neurological, and hormonal, begin to shut down. And here's the part no one tells you. This decline isn't inevitable. You can slow it, even reverse parts of it, if you understand what's happening and take action. What's at stake isn't just performance. It's your vitality, your independence, and your quality of life. And when you see the consequences of giving it up entirely, you'll understand why this one choice matters more than most men realize. Consequence number 1, loss of penile function. One of the most common and most quietly devastating consequences I see in older men is the gradual loss of penile function. It often starts without warning. A man in his late 60s or early 70s notices his morning erections aren't as frequent. Then one day, they're gone entirely. Weeks pass, then months without a single spontaneous response. Even when he tries, the body doesn't react the way it used to. He blames age, he blames stress, but the real culprit is something far simpler and far more preventable. Your penis is not just an ornament. It's a functional organ that depends on regular circulation to stay healthy. Each time it's stimulated, fresh blood flows in, delivering oxygen and nutrients to the tissues. This process keeps the erectile tissue supple, responsive, and ready to function. When that stimulation stops for extended periods, especially after 60, blood flow slows. Oxygen delivery decreases. Over time, the tissue begins to stiffen, not in the way you want, but in a process called fibrosis, the buildup of scar-like tissue that limits flexibility and responsiveness. The nerves, too, can lose sensitivity from disuse. This isn't theory, it's basic vascular biology. If you broke your arm and kept it in a cast for 6 months, the muscles would atrophy, you'd lose coordination. It would take therapy and effort to regain even partial use. Your sexual function is no different. The tragedy is that most men don't notice the damage until it's advanced. At that point, even medications like Viagra often can't restore what's been lost because the underlying tissue has already deteriorated. I've seen men sit across from me with tears in their eyes, asking if it's too late. For some, with aggressive therapy, changes in lifestyle and medical support, we can recover part of what was lost. But for others, the decline is permanent. And all because they believed giving up self-intimacy was harmless. The truth is simple, what you don't use, you lose. And in this case, losing it doesn't just affect your body, it affects your self-esteem, your relationships, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your body still works. And that's just the first consequence. The next one goes even deeper into your hormones, energy, and identity as a man. Consequence number 2, testosterone. Crash. If losing function is the most obvious change, a drop in testosterone is the most quietly destructive. It doesn't happen overnight. At first, it's subtle. You're just a little less motivated to get out of bed in the morning. The hobbies that used to excite you don't hold the same spark. You start skipping your walks, your appetite changes, and you feel more tired during the day. You might even notice you're quicker to snap at people or that your patience is wearing thin. Most men chalk it up to getting older. But behind the scenes, your testosterone levels may have fallen off a cliff, not just from the natural decline that comes with age, but accelerated by a complete lack of sexual stimulation. Here's what's happening. Regular arousal and release signal your brain to keep producing testosterone. The hypothalamus, a tiny but powerful control center in your brain, sends messages to your pituitary gland, which in turn tells your testicles, keep producing. We still need this. Even in your 60s or 70s, this signal matters. When you remove sexual activity from your life entirely, the opposite happens. The body assumes it no longer needs to maintain high testosterone production. Levels drop faster than they would naturally, and once they're low, reversing them can be slow, expensive, and sometimes impossible without lifelong medical therapy. Low testosterone isn't just about sex drive, it's about your whole identity as a man. It affects your ability to think clearly, your energy levels, your muscle mass, your bone density, and your mood stability. Studies have linked low testosterone to increased risk of cardiovascular disease, higher body fat, and even earlier mortality. I once treated a retired firefighter who came to me not because of performance issues, but because he just didn't feel like himself anymore. He was exhausted, unmotivated, and withdrawing from friends. His blood tests revealed severely low testosterone, levels more typical of a man 20 years older. Within months of restoring regular sexual stimulation, alongside diet and exercise changes, his energy began to return, his mood improved, and he started socializing again. That's the power of hormones, and the danger of letting them crash without realizing it. But the risks don't stop there. The next consequence isn't just about how you feel. It's about the health of one of the most vulnerable organs in your body, your prostate. Consequence number 3. Prostate, congestion, and complications. There's a certain kind of discomfort older men don't often talk about. A dull ache deep in the pelvis, a strange heaviness after sitting too long, or the nagging urge to urinate even when the bladder isn't full. It's not sharp like a pulled muscle. It's not sudden like a heart attack. It builds quietly over months or even years until one day it starts interfering with daily life. In my clinic, I've seen countless men come in thinking they have a bladder problem, only to discover the real culprit is prostate congestion, a condition often caused by a lack of regular ejaculation. Here's why: your prostate isn't just sitting there doing nothing, it's an active gland that produces and stores seminal fluid. That fluid is meant to move. When you completely stop sexual activity, that fluid sits for too long, thickens, and causes pressure inside the gland. Over time, inflammation sets in. This can lead to slower urine flow, pelvic discomfort, lower back pain, and frequent nighttime trips to the bathroom. In more serious cases, it can trigger chronic prostatitis, a painful, long-term inflammation that can be frustratingly difficult to treat. But the danger doesn't stop at discomfort. Several studies, including a well-known Harvard study, suggest that regular ejaculation may help lower the risk of prostate cancer. The theory is simple: flushing the prostate regularly may help remove potentially harmful substances before they cause trouble. Letting fluid stagnate could do the opposite, increasing inflammation and, over time, possibly increasing cancer risk. I once treated a man in his late 60s who hadn't been sexually active, alone or with a partner, for nearly 2 years. When his PSA, prostate-specific antigen levels, spiked during a routine check, further tests revealed significant congestion and swelling. We were able to reduce it with treatment, but the conversation could have been avoided entirely with a simple, natural maintenance habit. The lesson here is straightforward: the prostate doesn't retire just because you do. It still needs care, attention, and healthy function well into your later years. Neglecting it doesn't just make life uncomfortable, it can change it entirely. And while prostate issues are physical and often painful, the final consequence we need to discuss hits somewhere deeper, in your mind, your heart, and your sense of who you are. Consequence number 4: emotional and intimacy decline. This last consequence is the quietest and, in many ways, the most devastating. It doesn't show up on a blood test. You can't measure it with a scale or a blood pressure cuff, but you feel it deep down. It's the slow fading of the spark you once had, the sense of connection to yourself, the subtle joy that comes from feeling alive in your own skin. When you give up all forms of intimacy, even with yourself, something in you begins to retreat. At first, you might not notice. You're busy, you have responsibilities, you convince yourself you don't have the time or the interest, but over months and years, that quiet distance becomes a chasm. I've spoken with men who describe feeling hollow, invisible, or unnecessary. They didn't have a medical diagnosis, they weren't in constant pain, but they no longer felt like themselves. Their posture changed, they avoided mirrors, their voices lost their old confidence. Here's why: sexual stimulation isn't just about the body, it's about the brain. When you engage in intimacy, your brain releases chemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. These regulate mood, reduce anxiety, and create feelings of connection, even if that connection is just with yourself. Without them, you're more prone to depression, loneliness, and even cognitive decline. I recall one widower in his 70s who came to see me. He'd stopped all forms of intimacy after his wife passed, thinking it would be disrespectful to her memory. But over time, he became withdrawn, stopped seeing friends, and lost interest in hobbies. When we spoke openly about the emotional side of sexual health, and he cautiously began reintroducing it into his life, his energy returned. He smiled more. He started going out again. This is not about lust or vanity. It's about keeping the light on inside, about reminding yourself, even in your later years, that you are still here, still worthy of joy, and still connected to your own life. Now that you've seen all 4 consequences, it's time to talk about the other benefits, the ones most men never even hear about. Additional health connections. Up to this point, we've focused on the 4 main consequences men experience when they give up all forms of sexual activity later in life. But what many don't realize is that the benefits go far beyond sexual function. Maintaining intimacy, even occasionally, supports your body in ways that touch nearly every aspect of your health: bone density and muscle preservation. Testosterone plays a critical role in keeping your bones strong and your muscles firm. When levels drop, bone density decreases and the risk of fractures rises. Muscle mass fades, making everyday tasks harder. Regular sexual activity helps support hormone production, keeping bones and muscles in better condition. Cardiovascular health. Sexual activity is a form of gentle exercise that improves blood circulation, supports heart health, and can even help regulate blood pressure. Men with higher testosterone and better circulation often have lower risk of heart disease. Immune function studies suggest that regular intimacy can give your immune system a measurable boost, improving your ability to fight off common illnesses. Sleep quality. The hormonal and neurological changes after release, including a drop in cortisol, the stress hormone, can promote deeper, more restorative sleep. Cognitive longevity. There's growing research showing that sexual activity may help protect against cognitive decline. Better blood flow, improved hormone balance, and mood regulation all play a role in keeping the brain sharp. When you see it this way, sexual activity in later life isn't just about keeping one part of your body working. It's about keeping all of you healthier, stronger, and more resilient. And that brings us to the most important part of this conversation: what you can do starting right now to protect and even restore your vitality. The 5-step action plan. Understanding the risks is important, but knowledge means nothing without action. Here's a simple, science-backed plan you can start today to protect, and in many cases, restore your vitality. Step 1. Gentle, regular stimulation. You don't need to engage daily, but you do need consistency. Even once or twice a week can maintain blood flow, keep tissues supple, and signal your brain to sustain hormone production. Treat it like any other form of health maintenance, not as an indulgence, but as necessary care. Step 2. Regular hormone checkups. Men over 60 should have their testosterone levels checked at least once a year, ideally every 6 months. Low levels can often be corrected with lifestyle changes before medications are needed. If supplementation becomes necessary, do it under a qualified doctor's supervision. Step 3. Nutrition for hormone health. Your diet plays a huge role in maintaining sexual and overall health. Focus on healthy fats, olive oil, avocados, nuts, to support hormone production. Zinc-rich foods, pumpkin seeds, shellfish, for testosterone health. Vitamin D from sunlight or supplements to maintain bone density and mood. Plenty of vegetables to reduce inflammation and improve circulation. Step 4. Circulation. Boosters. Physical activity, even light, improves vascular health. Walking, swimming, and cycling keep blood vessels elastic. Add in pelvic floor exercises, Kegels, to strengthen the muscles that support erections and bladder control. Stretching and yoga can also enhance blood flow to the pelvic region. Step 5. Mind-body connection. Stress, anxiety, and depression can all reduce sexual desire and performance. Practice stress reduction techniques like deep breathing, meditation, or mindfulness. Maintain emotional connections with friends, family, or a partner. Even if you live alone, social interaction is critical for mood and motivation. Putting it all together. You don't have to change everything overnight. Start with 1 or 2 steps and build from there. Think of this plan like a maintenance schedule for your car. A little regular attention prevents major breakdowns later. By combining regular stimulation with healthy lifestyle habits, you're not just preserving sexual function, you're improving your heart health, your mood, your energy levels, and your independence. The best part? It's never too late to start. Whether you're 60, 70, or 80, your body still responds to care and attention. Hopeful closing. There's a belief many men carry that intimacy, pleasure, and desire are things you simply outgrow. That after a certain age, your body is supposed to go quiet. That it's noble, even respectable, to give that part of yourself up. But after decades of working with men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, I can tell you, that belief has robbed too many men of their health, their happiness, and their very sense of self. You've now seen the truth. Giving up sexual activity entirely can trigger a chain reaction. Loss of function, a crash in testosterone, prostate congestion, emotional decline. These aren't small inconveniences, they're life-altering changes, and they don't happen because you're old. They happen because a vital system in your body was left idle. But here's the good news, it's not too late. Your body remembers, your mind remembers. With simple, consistent habits, you can wake up systems you thought were gone forever. You can restore strength, sharpen your focus, lift your mood, and protect your independence for years to come. This isn't about chasing youth or proving anything to anyone else. It's about honoring every part of yourself, even the parts no one sees, and giving your body what it needs to thrive. So if this message has stirred something in you, act on it. Take that first step today. Even a small change in routine can set you on a new path. You are not done yet. You are not past your prime. You are still here, and you still have more living to do, more joy to feel, more moments to enjoy, more of yourself to reclaim. If you're ready to fight for that, start now. Because the clock is ticking, but the choice is yours.